snuck, and it's so welcome, but no recorders. Baptized by laughter in the dark. We stand tall, scorning fake orders. In the search of glory rise, with chaos and shenanigans bright. Chocolate and sarcasm uprise. Together we light up the night.
Hey guys, and welcome to a special story time with your Auntie Mo, and talking about yesterday how I was able to go with Nicholas of Nicholas Starro Trial Watch to Delphi, and we kind of got to walk around the town and walk around the Monon High Bridge Trail, where Abby and Liberty unfortunately lost their life. And I kind of just wanted to talk about that actual experience. And I was so lucky that, oh, thank you for joining my mini 67. Well, thank you, for listening. And you can always re listen in the morning when you're more awake. But I'm glad you have me on. Thank you. Um, so I'd been wanting to go up to Delphi. As you guys know, I've been following this case. I live in Indiana about um, an hour and 45 minutes or 2 hours, depending on traffic. And of course, I led Nick to this area right during rush hour traffic. So again, never trust me for directions. I think I am the reincarnated leader of the Donner Party as far as directionality goes. So if I ever make a navigational choice, please tell me no and do the opposite. But I'd been wanting to go up to Delphi on my own, but until I started using my walking pad and things like that, I was unsure that I would actually be able to walk that long. So not only was yesterday extremely emotional because of sort of walking the steps of these two precious little girls who were just on the edge of growing up and all of the future that was robbed from them. And, you know, that hit me a lot harder. I am not going to lie. The emotions I felt were a lot stronger than I had ever anticipated them being. I started following this case not religiously or anything, but, you know, February 13th, 2017, I had a one-year-old. Oh my goodness, that would be awesome. If we have chance and we can meet up, that would be awesome possum, but I know how randomy things happen, so I understand that as well. But where was I? So I was at home with a one-year-old. The youngest, most feral, was one, but my older girls were maybe pretty much Wolfram. I have been kindly voluntold not to help with navigation anymore. As Nick can attest, I took us on a nature trail that was on its way to, I think, perdition instead of where we were supposed to be going. But I had warned him not to listen to my navigational things. So it's absolutely insane. Thank you so much, AC's Wildflower. So I started watching this because I think that this case taps into every single parental fear we have. A small town, a safe, I mean, you guys saw the live stream. It took Nick and I, who are, let's just say, uh, accelerationally challenged while walking, only about 3 minutes to walk from the courthouse to the CVS where Richard Allen was the manager. But this kind of taps into every fear that a parent has, you know, realizing that your child at, 13, 14 is going to need to expand their wings a little bit. You're going to need to let them, go out and become a little bit more independent. You live in a small town, a peaceful town, and I know evil can happen anywhere, but this is a small town. I mean, you do the wave when you're have the steering wheel, you know, you there's a, breakfast joint where, it's a family institution, it's a town institution. There's maybe 3 stoplights. I mean, incredibly small town. I believe that even as the county seat of, Carroll County, Delphi only has approximately 12,000 people, or no, 1,200, sorry. Math, not my strong point. So, it's an incredibly small town, and there's not much to do there. So, I imagine these girls excited with a day off from school, kind of an unexpected, you know, false spring day that happens in Indiana where you get, winter, then false spring, then blizzard, then, um, possibly actual spring and then maybe one more snowstorm. So, right in that, false spring summer area, the girls had been at home. Libby had invited Abby over for a sleepover. uh, Libby lives with her grandparents and her father made them, I think, banana bread pancakes, which was one of her favorite things. And they had been pestering Libby's older sister to take them to the Monon Trail because honestly, in that town, there's a Dairy Queen and, several liquor stores. It's a beautiful town, but it has, like the boutiques on Main Street that are mainly for people that are coming in to look at small towns because locals aren't gonna spend $40 for a shirt. I live in Martinsville, y'all. I know. We're famous for, like, a spring well and, again, a taxidermied John R. Wooden, coach of basketballness in the high school. So, it very small. I mean, imagine basically, you're just walking there, you're saying hi to people. The courthouse is absolutely amazing. It has a wonderful tile rug, um, and monuments to, every single conflict that our service members have gone through, and then people in the town that have served in those wars. So, I mean, a small town that may be a little clannish, maybe a little, flyover country, but where you know people, where as a parent, honest to goodness, I would say, "Okay, girls, go out hiking. Just have your cell phone on, please, and be done." I mean, absolutely with no hesitation would I now, I have seen the, old bridge. Now, had I known that local shenanigans are to walk across this, old rickety rail tie bridge as a, badge of honor, I may have been the parent that said, "You can do anything, you're not going on that daggone bridge," because my children have mostly inherited my athletic abilities, and we don't need to explain to the ER doctor we were trying to be smart and brave. So, we're just walking around the town at first and, I'm just struck by how much this is like where I live right now, where I grew up in high school. Small, down home people tell you like it is, uh, friendly, open, willing to help you with most anything. Yeah, you have the same things that you're going to have in a big city. You're going to have, addiction problems. You're going to have all the things you have in a big city. Just because you live in a town that looks like Mayberry, you're still going to have those things. I believe it does. You will have to talk to Nicholas. I got out of there before I needed bail money, that will come later in the story, because Mo popped her mouth off to a cop. In my defense, I was provoked, and I have no filter. But I I did do that. So, I decided that Mo was, close enough to, an orange jumpsuit in a town of where police officers where I've made fun of them and called them morons for years on end. So, I decided to cut my losses and leave. But, so we are just walking, and if you watch Nick's live stream, the courthouse is cat-a-corner to the jail, so where United Command was set up, and not more than 2 minutes walk, even for those, shuffling among us, is the CVS, a McDonald's, and then a Dairy Queen on the other side, and that CVS was where Richard Allen worked as a manager. And I don't think I realized how close everything was until I had actually gone up to get Dingus, my new feral werewolf kitten who ate my Whopper. Let me explain to you guys that I was, like, starving Marvin after driving all of yesterday. I stopped to get a burger, and I thought, "I don't have to share any of my onion rings with the boys." So I put my, burger on the table, which is this is tangent engaged. Put my burger on the table, go get something. My werewolf kitten, Wolfram, I'm blaming you. I am blaming you. Decided that he needed to quality assurance test my entire Whopper. So between working out and Dingus, I will have a six-pack. Thank you, Slinky, for being a member for 8 months, and thanks for possibly raising my bail money, but I am not getting arrested in Carroll County. I'd rather do burpees in Walmart to a Lizzo song. Yep. So, I don't think that I was really hit emotionally kind of until we got to the trail, and I will tell you guys that the trail is a beautiful I mean, you can see the sun dappling through leaves. You are, surrounded by nature. You can hear the highway, you can hear the freeway, you can hear the trucks going, but you are in this lovely, paved area. Again, I mean, I was just thinking if my kids had wanted to come here, if my girls, 13 and 14, had wanted to come here, I wouldn't have had a problem because how what can happen, in a really well cared for nature reserve? And as I'm walking through this and seeing these places, I'm just imagining these 2 little girl and I know they're not little, they were young adults, because my 13-year-old would have a big issue with saying "little girl." But I just imagine, kind of getting this freedom, this day of unexpected liberty and adventure. And liberty was a much more kind of out there, extroverted part of this friend group. Abby was more reserved, a little bit more timid, maybe a little bit more like me, born 47, not wanting to maybe do the bridge. But Abby had Abby had finally, gotten up all of her courage, and Libby was at the end of this bridge taking photos, and those are those photos that we see, um, bridge guy coming behind him, but we were I mean, all I could imagine was that sense of accomplishment that Abigail must have been feeling, like, this is scary as heck, her heart is racing, her adrenaline is jumping because mine would. Mo, even young Mo, would have been crawling over the bridge. No shame in my game. Definitely bear crawling through the whole thing. I would not be walking. But I can imagine, Liberty at the end, "Come on, girl, you've almost got this," or whatever the cool kids say now, and both of them feeling ecstatic because this is a life milestone. If you live in rural areas, there are, some rites of passage depending on where you live. Sometimes it might be, let's just saying adult beverages in a cornfield without adult parent knowledge or crossing this bridge. So I can to have that happen and then suddenly go to terror and horror and pain. And what really, really struck me about the trail is something that Nick and I really just touched upon was this is a high risk crime for the assailant. You not only don't know if other people are going to be coming unless you have stakeout, unless you have someone watching. Thank you, Nicholas, for gifting 5 memberships. And those went to AC's Wildflower, Phoenix Fire, Julie Sturgis, King Bob, and Denise Bax. And thank you so much for joining, Nicholas. But you are the most heartbreaking thing for me was that I am sure these girls in their final moments possibly heard people walking, down this trail, random people, probably heard the semis and the trucks, and to be so incredibly torturously close to help and not being able to get any of this, not being able to scream out to get a happier ending. I was just struck by how much worse that had to make everything. And in my heart, I could only imagine, how just absolute salt in the wound that had to be. But going back to the assailant, what it struck me even more as Nick and I were walking, and I know they've done some upgrades. I know they've changed some things. You are actually blocked off from that bridge right now. Um, Good quid pro quo is PSA. If you know you are going to pass away, tell someone close to you how to easily access your financial information and what you would like done with it. Um, Absolutely. Now, considering I will only be bequeathing my children a bunch of Sailor Moon stuff and wigs, I'll just let them fight amongst themselves. But Squid is right. Please try to have plans in place. When you're grieving someone, it is just not at the best time to have to make all of these decisions that you unfortunately have to make all of these decisions right at that moment. And if you can pre-plan or at least try to give someone at least some kind of heads up of what you would like, that's always the best thing. Mr. Mo and I have talked about it. He's not too cool with me taxidermying myself to hold the Halloween candy and or platters depending on what holiday it is. But we're still working on that one. So back to the trail and sort of the assailant. Uh, y'all know I am just a redhead from Indiana who likes to run her mouth. I'm not a FBI-ologist. I'm not a behaviorologist. I don't even practice phrenology, though I have been practicing to see if, youngest, most feral has a criminal head shape because that child. What struck me was unless you have a lookout, I mean, we had people coming in that we couldn't tell what that they were walking or that they had joined the trail after us because we weren't at the trailhead. And there are 2 ways, uh, to get onto the trail. So, again, you have 2 points of ingress and egress into this trail, plus God knows how many just game trails, back ways, local secret trails, those things. all of those you can expect random people, not your victims or not your chosen people, to come through. You are doing this in the middle of the day. Now, what tips me to maybe thinking that this was local and they knew them, unless this was totally random, is that, they had to know that this was a day off from school, unless this was completely opportunistic. And if you're telling me that this was completely opportunistic, that a very short, spherical man who looks like he has my mobility issues was able to corral 2 girls, maintain control of these 2 young girls, because if that fight or flight, goes off and one of them runs, if he was only using, say, a knife, well, you start running unless that person is gonna throw a knife at you, then, that's you have to have a force multiplier, which is alleged, to corral those girls. And I'm not going to get into, what happened at the crime scene. I did read all of the Frank's motion, and I do have a warning on that particular episode. Um, but the physicality of how they were moved, undressed, redressed, um, basically exsanguinated in one area, bled out in one area, and then moved to another area so there was not as much blood. It's a very physical job. I don't know if any one of you have ever tried to dress a non-compliant toddler, but that is like trying to put a mix of Gumby, Jello, and pudding into a romper. It's terribly physical, and if you're telling me that he was able to do this in an hour or so with no one noticing, with nothing. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. This is if you want my deep down opinion, I think that this is going to be part of a series. I think that this was not a first unaliving for these people or whomever did it. This was an extremely elaborate plan, as far as being organized, maybe having things set up, having a lookout, or being fairly confident he wasn't going to get interrupted, having plenty of time to stage, dress, and, alter the crime scene to make it match what is in their minds. I mean, this is not something that I would think would be spur of the moment. This is not something I would think would be a first time crime. Generally, and I shouldn't know all of this because of, watching YouTube, but generally, these kind of ritualistic things are not the gate point at which these kind of offenders start. Usually it's that triad of, a terrible childhood, possibly a brain injury, and then, well, sadism. So I feel like this is going to be part of a series. I This is totally tinfoil hat, so feel free to tell me I'm absolutely insane. But I do see parallels f with the Abby and Libby case and the West Memphis 3. Both of them happened near a major, major thoroughfare. They were both in rural, isolated places that mostly locals would know. There were thoughts of both being ritualistically, based, whether that's real or not. Like I said, this is my total tinfoil hatty thing. I mean, I am basing this on nothing but Mo sense. So again, feel free to completely disagree with me. I I will not be offended in any way. After I took Nick on our terrifying adventure of dealing with loose, slippery rocks and both of us being mobility impaired, again, I should never be trusted with directions. we finally get to the bridge. And I will tell you guys that I know some people wondered if I would go to the graves of the girls. And honestly, for me, I felt like that was way too intrusive for me personally. I'm sure other people have gone to give their respects and to honor these 2 precious girls who had their futures stolen from them. But I did have a quiet moment at the end of that bridge, and I hoped that both girls were free and out of pain and at peace wherever they are, because I know their family hasn't been at peace. I know we are all awaiting justice and, the trial to come and, get this evidence out. You know, I think that is the biggest possibly misconception that people on the outside of this case have with people who are advocating for Richard Allen's constitutional rights to be enforced. We do not want justice for these girls. In fact, we are passionate. We would like all the justice for these girls. If I could get Lord Chippy and the son to have a baby and, have Solar Chippy, find this person, um, that would be my hope. It's not that we don't want justice. We want justice the right way. We want to honor these girls by getting the absolute human garbage, dumpster water, trash can firers who did this. And if they prove it's Richard Allen, then let's throw away the key. I have no problem with that. But I will tell you that I think for a long time, and I'm going to be very honest, I focused a lot on Richard Allen because, like I say, this case is the fear that lurks at the heart of every parent, everyone who has a niece, a nephew, kids that they care about. It's how fragile and absolutely unpredictable and without reason life can be, that you can send your kids out, give them that taste of freedom, only for them to not come home. And, I have 3 daughters, and it just hit me so much. I What I felt at the end of the bridge is absolutely not even, a tenth of what, family and friends of these girls probably feel and are feeling every day. I can only imagine. But my heart grieved the loss of these 2 little girls, and it was just the realization and horrible, horrible reality that they went from this just super high moment of, "Yay, you did it, you crossed it, you conquered your fear," feeling on top of the world, probably adrenaline rushing and, gonna do a victory dance at the end, hugging and probably putting, these pictures on Snapchat, telling the entire world, "Hey, she did this," rite of passage. And then to have all of that yanked away in one of the most brutal ways that I could only imagine, made more brutal by the fact that they could probably hear people walking by, because we could hear people. They could hear that freeway going, and to be that close to help and not be able to get it, it tore me up a little bit. It really did, because I'm sure all of us, when we read these, wish that some hero had heard something, wish we could have been there to stop this. I mean, it was just such a hopeless, helpless feeling. But I have to sometimes it's easier to focus on the legal part of these cases, because when you dig down into who the victims are, how innocent they were, how easily this could have been you or your family or someone because it is it is just absolutely heartbreaking, devastating, and I think that's where a lot of the anger comes from, and thank you so much, Tamara. I will say about the walking, again, tangent engaged. Having made a commitment to, walk almost every day except when it's really, really bad on my walking pad has been, I don't think if I hadn't been doing that, I don't think I would have survived the walk. Although next time I will wear my, slip-in shoes instead of my Birkenstocks, but I didn't know we were gonna go off-roading, although I should have because I'm directionally me. What I will say is that after I walked and I said, my piece to the girls and that I hope that they were in peace, there was still that heaviness, there was still that eeriness, but there was also more of a sense of peace. And regardless of how you feel faith-wise, you can believe in the Biscotti monster in the sky, or, be very religious as the world's worst Christian and recovering Catholic. Um, I can say that sometimes the only thing that gets me through these cases is the hope, the faith that these girls are in a better place now. And regardless of how much we muck up and maybe don't get things right in our judicial system, somewhere, somehow, they're at peace right now. And all of us who are or have been working on this case, have been trying to bring light to this case, want these girls to have that peace, want their families to have that peace. And the funny thing is as we were walking back from being at the bridge, having maybe that quiet moment and, you know, then kind of running into a couple different people walking, there was actually a police officer in a golf cart, and I was like, "Holy crap, Nicholas, they figured us out. We are getting arrested." I was like, "Tell them 'em you're Swedish and you can't be arrested because of the Geneva Convention." Turns out that this very nice police officer, and he was nice, though I did pop off to him, and I will explain, was helping another mobility challenged woman such as ourselves who maybe misjudged how long the walk was going to be, because while it is paved and very smooth on the trail that we almost didn't pick, uh, it still is a bit of a walk. So he was going to get her, and I guess he just, drives up and down the trail to make sure that people are safe. This is a new thing that they added. Um, these old women, this group of 3 older women, God love them. I was like, "Oh my god, we found the golden girls of crime." I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing," because they were in that golf cart just peppering this cop with questions like, "So you're saying that Dr. Phil is wrong?" I was like, "Oh, hell, dude. You just besmirched the name of Dr. Phil to the Golden Girls. I don't know if you're gonna get out of this, son." I was like, "Run." And then, they were just talking about all the different theories and things like that. And the cop said something, and he was being kind of condescending to, my new best friends, the crime Golden Girls. And he was like, "He confessed 60 times." And I said, "Yes, whilst on psychotropics and eating his own poo." I mean, if you believe confessions like that, and then I was like, "Oh, crap, I am gonna get arrested." So then I was quiet because I was like, "Mo, really? Think before you talk. Orange does not look good on you. Orange is not your color. It washes you out. You cannot do this." He was a good sport about it. I will say he was a fairly good sport, but he kept spewing all of these things that have been disputed. And I did ask him about the probable cause affidavit and how, a PT Cruiser, pink one, or no, not pink, a purple PT Cruiser became an SUV, became a smart car. And he said, well, eyewitnesses are dumb. That probable cause affidavit is basically only reliant on this, eyewitness identification. So I was like, "Okay, Mo, you are not going to, I know, I can't decide if I wanna be Dorothy or Sophia. I'll have to ask my daughter if she's okay being called Kitten. But I don't have any stories about back in the day in Sicily. I'll have to work on that. I'm sure I can figure some out." I will say that the police officer was a good sport, and I did thank him for talking to me even though I diametrically disagree with everything that he was pushing. And that's the thing is that the prosecution is relying on people only listening to "he confessed" and not the mental state he was in. Not to mention, he didn't quite confess to the correct way, uh of unaliving for the first several times until he was somewhat coached. So, there is that, and to be very fair to him, I mean, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office and police office has been dragged for this investigation. And rightly so, because I will tell you guys, I have never been more angry at authorities in my entire life than when I read in the Franks motion that they had Westfall and Holden, their cell phones subpoenaed to be, confiscated 3 days after the murder. So in the since 2017, the general public has gotten 2 janky sketches and 2 recordings, one where we add girl or guys down the hill. So one was just down the hill, and then a couple years later, they added the guys, like that was supposed to be the breadcrumb that solved this entire thing. Not to mention, yeah, false confessions happen. Eh, if you can imagine being taken from your home after you I mean, let's take this on the way we're supposed to take this as a pretrial alleged suspect. You are you're Richard Allen. You work at CVS, you took a lunch break. You decided to go to one of the bridges, look at stock stuff. According to him, this is what happened, so let's go with this story. But you leave prior to 1:30, you're pretty sure. Now, the day after the girls' bodies were found, or in the week after that, you decide to be helpful and you tell a, Department of Natural Resources officer that, "Hey, you guys were asking if anyone was on the trail. I was there. This is where I parked. This is the car I drove. And these were the relative times I was there. If you'd like to check my phone," or things like that, trying to be helpful. And years pass, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 22, and suddenly they find magically this note. They missed where the DNR officer not only misspelled your name, but called you a completely different person, so it was mislabeled and put somewhere. And I will tell you that when Richard Allen was announced, I was excited. I thought honestly thought that this case would never be solved. I thought that, with the lack of physical evidence and, being in such a remote place, being in such a rural area, that police aren't used to this. This is a huge crime scene. It's a wooded, forested crime scene. You know, I just figured it was never going to be solved. So when they finally, said Richard Allen, And, I kind of got lost in the hype a little bit, "Oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous. He did the pictures for their, memorials. How how psychotic, how sociopathic can you be?" And then I read the probable cause affidavit because at this time I've started watching trials. I read the Stalk probable cause affidavit and I thought, well, I'm new at this, but let me see what I think. I mean, surely they have to have, you know, just all the evidence, like, everything down pat in order to, bring this to a close. And I read the probable cause affidavit and I was like, what am I looking at? Um, so you're telling me that you picked him out because he was walking on the trail, he has access to a Carhartt jacket, knives, and force multipliers. Well, that's about 97% of all of Indiana male population. I mean, not gonna lie to you, okay, 87%. I was waiting for that smoking gun. I thought, "Dear Lord, they have to have something more." And I contacted my appellate attorney friend, Cara Winnicky, and I was like, "Is there anything more? Am I missing this? Am I not reading this correctly? Because what exactly do they have?" And it was a big old goose egg. And so I kept waiting for more things to come out, and then the Franks motion drops. And I will be I will be very honest with you guys, when the Odinist stuff first came out, I was like, "Defense, I wanna like you, but please don't try to sell me man, bear, pig." Because this is I was like, "Odinist Cole, are you serious?" But as I read through it, and you see that all of that information is taken from Discovery, when you see that the Carroll County when the United Field Command or whatever, I call them Space Force, but let's not, or Star Command is what I really call them, but that's from Toy Story, and we all know that, Star Command isn't real. But then I read the Franks motion, and I was incredibly upset because, again, they had people that looked like good ideas, and whether they thought that this Odinist thing was a big pile of poop or not, how do you delete the recordings of your first suspects? How do you not know that you taped over them? Why did you kick out the FBI? Why did you, lie about this professor saying that it was definitely totally for super serials, not ritualistic, when his testimony comes out later that he told you it was in fact very in line with ritualistic unalivings? It's been the constant lying. And I think that for a lot of us that are watching trials and getting more understanding of how prosecutors shade certain facts, there's a There's a line of shading facts for your case, and then there's just outright lying and not giving discovery, and the weird sort of antagonism that Judge Gull has with the defense to where she is absolutely kneecapping them at every opportunity, hobbling their ability to put on a defense to the point where she was going to give them, what, 3 days, and they had to reschedule the trial because she pulled out some arbitrary non-existent rule that the court case could only go for 14 days or 2 weeks, so 5 days, and, wanted to only give the defense about 3 days at the end for all of their stuff, blocking the funding for their, you know, expert witnesses. I mean, again, even those people who believe that Richard Allen is beyond guilty, a monster, terrible, they should want this case to run correctly. They should want it to have absolutely no room for reversible error. to have the prosecutor be exactly on their game. What is going on in Indiana with this case is beyond anything that a lot of actual lawyers have ever seen. A, innocent until proven guilty prisoner, not kept in jail, but kept in a prison, isolation unit. The absolute degradation of Richard Allen from, the Midwesternly plump man that he was to a husk of a man. Look, I want whoever did this off the streets and, in orbiting the sun as soon as possible, allegedly in Minecraft. But we're never going to get real justice. We're never going to get closure. We are never going to protect future victims if we go after the wrong person. If we don't have evidence of concrete, not doctored evidence, not geofencing where you've taken everyone but Richard Allen and the girls' cell phones out, even if there's other cell phones that are showing up at the same time. I speak to this, I mean, this prosecutor has shown absolute contempt, in my opinion, for due process, for a fair and equal justice system. He tried to hide discovery. He did not disclose that the int interviews with Holder and Westfall were deleted or destroyed or what have you. These are all Brady violations. I don't know what planet Judge Gull is on, but the fact that she has not, at least from the last time I've looked up this thing, has not approved the defense attorney's pay since last April. I'm a bit done with the people that want him locked up with no due process. This could happen to any single one of us. We think we're trying to be helpful with a case. We think we're trying to, do our civic duty to come forward, to tell what we know, see something, say something. And then your life can be turned upside down. I mean, Richard Allen's family has moved away because there were unscrupulous people that gave out, doxed their house, put up pictures of his daughter, and things like that. And I know some people might think that they're doing that for justice. No, that's just as creepy and gross as, I don't know, bullying a 12-year-old on Call of Duty when you're 43. It's just weird. Don't do that. Don't bring kids into this. I There is a lot more if you guys would like to ask any questions. And thank you, Raven Whimsy, for your comment. My oldest sister was a pharmacist at Delphi Drugstore 55 years ago. It was such a shock hearing that evil happened there. I live on the West Coast and it rocked my world. Yeah, absolutely. It's your typical Mayberry. It's a place where people probably don't lock their cars, don't lock their houses, unless it's nighttime. It's a place where, you know, kids probably just ride their bikes just to ride their bikes. It's just like where I'm living right now, that rural sort of sense of small community. And I think it speaks to our absolute deepest fear, which is evil doesn't need a reason. I mean, I can sit here and give you my theories, give you my ideas, and the sad truth is we might never know, even if we catch the person who did this, what caused them to do this. What was the reason? We want a reason. We want it to make sense. We want to have that closure, that reassurance that, these monsters are rare, that there was, some sort of pattern that we can pick up so these monsters never become monsters. And the sad thing is that evil doesn't need a reason, and we can't fit it into a box, and we can't, predict where it's going to happen. And it speaks to that just absolute fear that, you know, just out of the blue, your life can explode through no fault of your own just because you were on a hiking trail or you went to a movie or you crossed the street. I mean, it's terrifying. And I really think that's what's spoken to a lot of people that have gotten into this case, and I know it spoke to me having girls this age, living, out in the boonies and seeing, you know, just being there. Again, I would recommend if you have a chance to walk the trail. You know, I'm not saying it's gonna be easy. It was difficult for me, and I genuinely most of the time just think that I am too immature and, silly and with the maturity level of a 12-year-old to have a lot of, big, heavy emotions. But, oh, I am so sorry. Yeah, we didn't realize that the internet was going in and out. We do apologize. We thought we were all filming, but thank you for giving it a try. I would recommend go walking it. If you get a chance, if you get an opportunity, I will say again, as a person who, struggles walking a whole lot, they do have a nice paved, you know, walkway. But just to give, your respects. I think it was very powerful and very oh, what was it like meeting Nick in real life? Awesome. My kids were like, "So he's not from England?" And then they're like, "Where is Sweden?" We're working on geography now. Yes, and I will say I did try to warn Nick. I was like, "I'm sorry, we're aggressively friendly, mostly my youngest feral boys." But I didn't think he realized that he was gonna become like an honorary uncle, so my youngest, most feral, was going to try to pepper him with all of the, cool things he's doing in Roblox. So, I will say I hope yeah, I felt bad. I was like, "Nick, we have space. I can never offer you peace and quiet." Not to mention the fact that we were trying to tell the boys to, be quiet in the morning, and, uh, my youngest, most feral, doesn't quite understand quiet, and so he decided to go into stealth mode, and he needed his own theme music, so he was like, "Dun da da da, dun da da da, dun da da da, dun da da da," and I was like, "Sweetie, if you're loudly saying dun da da da, dun da da da, I'm pretty sure you're not in stealth mode." And he's like, "Oh, no, this is stealth mode." So, I think one of our cats adopted Nick, which is hilarious. I was like, "I'm sorry, Jingles is gonna be so mad at you because you smell like 874 cats." And, goats probably too. And he was like, "Wait a minute, you have cats that don't really attack you and like to be pet?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. The girls are antisocial, the boys tend to be attention junkies." So, he got to meet all the cats and all the ferals, and Kaiser Pineapple is an amazing cook. He made brisket and ribs and chicken, and my family has been eating off of that. for, the last couple days, so thank you, Kaiser, for making sure I do not have to cook, which is always a blessing in my home, and so that was so fun because, it I will say that it has been such an amazing thing to open up my friend group to people I've never met in real life, and then I get to meet in real life. I mean, Mo from 3 years ago, when I just got hurt, would never have imagined that I would be doing anything like this, that I would know anyone from Sweden, let alone, hang out and have some of the best darn ribs ever with a guy named Kaiser Pineapple. But, I mean, it's been amazing, the friend the friends that I've made. I mean, I've made friends from people all over the world that I never would've, and I've get to, meet the coolest chat and just be a part of something that I never thought I would, so it's so incredibly amazing. I get to talk about things that I'm passionate about and meet really cool people that are passionate about other things that I get to, you know, kind of see, "Oh my goodness," or talk to so many different people and get to experience, so many different points of view. That is probably we have found our tribe. Yes, we have. That is probably one of my favorite things about all the different varieties that we have in LawTube and LayTube and true crime and whatever weird hybrid of wig awesomeness diva I am, that we can all watch, trials and come to completely different, conclusions or maybe agree with each other but disagree on different points, and we can all have those points of view and, feel strongly about them, but still remain friends and, support each other and try to do this. Oh, that is so cool, Slinky. I will say, and I don't mean to besmirch Cincinnati, I really don't, but I am not a cinnamon person. I love Big Red gum, that's about my cinnamonness, and adding chili to cinnamon, it's not my jam. I don't get it, I really, really don't. I wish I did because everyone raves about Skyline chili. I've tried it once and I'm like, "Is that cinnamon? And why is pumpkin spice latte mix in my chili?" But oh, yeah, JKD Bug, I know it's okay, so it's Greek. Yeah, just not my y'all, I have the palate of the most picky four-year-old eater that you will ever meet. Like, I like my Whoppers with mustard only, no cheese. I yes, that is where they put chili on spaghetti. Oh, interesting. I'm more of a Texas okay, I like beans in my chili, but I also like the only meat chili, and I know there's a divide. I know it's just like ranch, Hidden Valley versus Kraft. I know there are 2 sides. Oh, cool, Squaw Bob. But it's been such a cool thing and opening to the world and getting to talk about different cases with other people. You know, you get ideas, you get different opinions, and I think that is just so cool. That's what I've really loved, and finding people that are just as passionate about finding justice, and we might come at it from completely different, perspectives, but I do like that more people are getting well, absolutely. That is the only answer, Tamara. Yes. Although family wars have been fought for less, like, mayonnaise or Miracle Whip. It is the Midwest. This has happened. But, you know, I think that there is so much room for all of us to have our different opinions, disagree, but also, still respect each other. And that's what I like about this. I like that more people are getting into trials because I think a lot of people go maybe start watching trials and they're a bit like me. The state would never bring charges if they couldn't prove them. You silly goose. Why would they do that? Or, what does due process even mean? What is a defense attorney actually there for? And I think a lot of people are understanding our justice system and maybe some of the flaws that are in there. And the more this comes to light, the more people wake up and start seeing a lot of these issues. I think things will actually start to happen. I mean, I know that's probably a little Pollyanna, but I'm hoping that the more that people get into this, the more people that start watching trials, and hopefully it doesn't devolve into the Karen Reed thing because y'all, I I will tell you, I thought that the Rittenhouse trial was gonna be the trial where people went total, like, "She doesn't go here, we only wear pink on Wednesdays," and, like, Mean Girls Burn book on some people. But no, it is the Karen Reed case. The wackadoos that have come out of the woodwork for that one. I was like, "God bless Baker, cause holy fazoli's wackadoos." And people are look, y'all know I have a Twitter, but I find nothing more antithetical to human progress than sitting on Twitter and arguing to people over the internet. I know some people really like it, but I'm like, "Why waste any of my life doing that?" So, the Karen Reed case is great if you wanna fight with people on the internet. But other than that, oh my gosh. I will tell you that I am trying to keep up with the motions, and now that the kids are back in school and we've gotten over the first couple weeks, I should be able to go back and, start going over a lot of the motions that I missed this summer due to the kids being out. Uh, so yeah, JKD Buck. It's a scary thing. So I will be trying to get an update on those. If you are new to the case, I do have the entire Frank's motion. I read it. I believe it's in 5 parts. So you can, go through that. I do read it all and the footnotes. I love me a good a footnote. Um, and a lot of the motions prior to that, I'm trying to catch up. So it is, you know, it's taking me a little time. Slow but sure, just like Nick and I walking through Delphi. And if you do get a chance, I would suggest all of you try to go if you can. It's a lovely town, and I think you really get a sense of not only these girls being robbed, but this town being robbed of its innocence, of its sense of safety, of sort of that idealized kind of Shire, from sort of facade. And thank you so much, JKD Buck. I got on the phone to Mr. Mo and I was like, hey, I think we can do some hiking with the boys and you guys. Maybe not long trails, but, little hikes because right before I got hurt, we had made a goal to go to every state park and hike and get one of those pins that I guess you can get at a state park. Uh, And that was something that I thought was completely lost to me, but it's just like everything else, you adapt and you just change, and so my goal's not gonna be, climbing Mount Everest, but doing short hikes with my family, that's achievable. So, I am still paying for it, so I'm probably going to cut this, um short unless there's any more questions, but I did want to give you guys some of my general thoughts. Like I said, it was a lot more emotional than I thought it was going to be, and I think it was much more easy for me to kind of stay on the legal side because I felt so um I felt so deeply for these little girls that sometimes it can become overwhelming when you do these cases. If you just think about the victim, it can be just devastating, and sometimes you have to close off to that and go to the case to kind of stay sane and still wanna do these cases. Kid cases are so incredibly hard, and I completely understand people that don't touch them at all because they are so incredibly difficult to sort of wrap your heart and soul around. I did have a Swede with me. I had an emotional support Swede, and he had an emotional support Mo. But I will be seeing you guys in the morning. We will go back to Mornings with Mo, and I should have a full day. Oh, thank you, Slinky, so much for your super chat. Thank you for all the work on this case. You're welcome. Definitely. You know what? He should get a t-shirt. I'm going to get a t-shirt made for Nick that says emotional support Swede. Nick, if you're watching this, it's your Christmas gift. It has been written. You need to put that in your merch store. I'm an emotional support Swede. Thank you guys for watching this, for listening to my story time. Don't forget to check out Squid Pro Quo. She has a channel. Let me see. I'm having Slinky, do you have a channel? Or did I just imagine that? I was trying to give a shout out to everyone who has a channel. Valhalla awaits. He's awesome. Kaiser Pineapple is awesome if you want Hollywood updates. And, make sure that you are still subscribed to your favorite channels because sometimes YouTube thinks that you no longer like us and will unsubscribe you themselves. So, thank you guys so much. Thank you for listening to me. And I appreciate it so much. I will see you guys in the morning. So, be safe, be careful. You are free to go wherever you want on the internet. Bye, you guys.